Tesla started delivering the Model Y about a month ago. It's their newest car and expected to be their most popular. So today, I'm going to compare the Model Y to what most would consider Tesla's flagship, the Model S. Now, the Model S was first introduced by Tesla in 2012. And of course, tons of stuff has improved on this car, including range, efficiency, speed, the overall interior quality and such. But aesthetically, besides this front bumper, not much has changed on this car since 2012. The Model S today starts at $79,900, but for now, let's talk about Tesla's newest car, the Model Y. The Model Y is essentially Tesla's crossover version of the very successful and popular Model 3, which was Tesla's first attempt at a cheaper, more affordable car, starting as low as $35,000. When you boil it down, it essentially looks like a larger version of the Model 3, and all the interior and the outside looks very, very similar, and it's actually built on purpose out of 75% of the same parts. But there's a lot more to it than just being a bigger version of the Model 3. So while this car is brand new, it's heavily based on a car that has been out for about 3 years or so, and when Tesla eventually comes out with a standard range version of the Model 3, which should ship in 2021, it should start at about $41,000. To compare the numbers real quick, this is the all-wheel drive version of the Model Y, so this one starts at $52,990. It gets a range of 316 miles and a 0 to 60 of 4.8 seconds. Now the 2020 Model S starts at $79,900, and for that price we'll go 390 miles of range and get a 0 to 60 of 3.7 seconds. Now, of course, both of these cars can be upgraded for the performance model, and they'll go faster. They usually lose some range when you do that, but they'll go faster, and it adds quite a bit of cost to the car. But today we're going to focus on practical features of both of these cars. Clearly, the Model S is Tesla's fastest car that can go the longest, but it comes at a cost of almost $28,000 to $40,000 more, depending on which trim you get. So it's important to consider, is the Model S really worth that extra cost? To start off, we're going to compare how these cars are very similar, and then look at what makes each one better or worse in their own ways. But first, make sure you subscribe to this channel to stay up to date on all the videos I'm bringing out about Tesla, tech, and more, and let's get into the comparison. What I find pretty interesting is that both of these cars have pretty much exactly the same storage locations all around the car. So to start off, we have the frunk, and similar frunk storage in the Model Y, just a little bit deeper. Then the Model S has this spacious hatchback trunk with an under storage compartment if you lift up the flap in the back. The Model S has one side cubby on the left side here. The Model Y also has a hatchback trunk with an automatic liftgate. It also has that under storage compartment as well as two side cubbies as opposed to just one in the Model S. And the Model Y also has a second under storage compartment, although it's pretty small. On top of this, if you need more storage space, the Model S seats fold flat, but there is a little bit of a gap between the seats and the floor of the trunk. And so do the seats in the Model Y with these little buttons right here, which is a nice little addition. So overall, the storage locations in both of these cars are actually exactly the same. They're just going to be bigger in the Model Y because this is overall a taller car, quite a bit taller than what the Model S is. Now the Model S is a little bit longer and wider than the Model Y, but overall you don't notice it too much, maybe a little bit of width in the back trunk space. Overall, the software is exactly the same in both cars. It's just designed for different sized and oriented screens, which we'll get into more in a second. And they both include all the same autopilot features. My biggest complaint about the Model Y so far is actually the rear visibility. When you look out through the rearview mirror, you're not going to see much, but it's actually pretty similar in the Model S. Now both cars come with 5 seats standard, and the Model S can only come with 5 seats now, but there used to be an option for 7 seats, and they were rear facing just like I'm sitting now, mainly just for children. Now from everything we've heard, the third row, which should be coming in 2021, should be forward facing like this and fit small adults or children. But I mean, it's tight back here. I mean, from here it just starts sloping down with the hatchback. And right now I'm sitting on top of the rear storage cover, but I have this one off so my feet can go down a little bit. I just do not see how this is going to work for anyone except very small children. Now this has led many people to believe that the rear seats are going to be rear facing as well, and that could theoretically work and give a little bit more space, but still, I'm 5'10", and I'm sitting as low as I can possibly sit with these under storage compartments. And my head still hits right here, which is where the trunk is going to close. So overall, comparing the basic functionality of these two cars, they're actually fairly similar. But of course, the Model Y is going to have more cargo capacity because it's a taller car. So let's get into all the ways that the Model S is better than the Model Y, and it better have some good ones because it can be up to $40,000 more expensive. First up is the most obvious. So if you compare the performance models of the Model S to the Model Y, the Model S is going to have a 0 to 60 of 2.7 seconds, and the Model Y is going to have a 0 to 60 of 3.5 seconds. And then on top of that, on a full charge, the furthest this car can go, the long-range Model S, is going to be 391 miles, compared to the long-range Model Y, which is 316 miles. Next up, the Model S features two screens, and the second screen is right where your speedometer would traditionally go in most cars. And that screen is going to show you your speed, your autopilot visualizations, your general energy usage, additional mapping info, as well as other info that you can choose from. Now the Model Y features just one screen right here and no screen directly in front of you. In my personal experience, I actually find the screen in the Model S that's right in front of you to be a little bit small, and I actually enjoy watching autopilot visualizations on this screen more because they're bigger, even though they're just to the right side of the wheel. On top of this, I don't actually miss having the speedometer right in front of me. It's right here to the right of the wheel. It's pretty much the same distance away for your eyes. But to the average consumer, a second screen is going to be preferred because pretty much every car in the history of cars has had a speedometer directly in front of you. Handling in the Model S is much sportier than it is in the Model Y, and that is just because this car is much lower to the ground, and it's a much shorter car when you're talking about vertical. Now this isn't to say that the Model Y doesn't handle well. It actually handles incredibly well, and it's a lot sportier than a lot of cars out there. But it's a bigger car than the Model S, so when you compare the two, this doesn't handle as well just because of the fact that it's bigger. Next up, the Model S features an adjustable air suspension that allows you to choose between low, standard, high, and very high on the suspension. So if you're driving where you want to optimize for efficiency or aerodynamics, you might want to choose a lower setting, but if you're driving into a fairly steep curb, you can choose the very high setting and you're not going to scrape the bottom of your car. And on top of that, the Model S will remember that you adjusted your suspension there and do the same next time so you don't have to do it manually. The Model Y has a standard fixed suspension that is listed at 6.6 inches of ground clearance, and it isn't quite as smooth as the Model S's air suspension. Next up, the Model S has a heated steering wheel, a power adjustable headrest, more physical stalks around the actual steering wheel itself, and an HEPA filter for what Tesla calls bioweapon defense mode. On top of this, the Model S just rides smoother and the overall cabin noise is less inside thanks to that air suspension. Now the Model Y isn't loud or bumpy by any means, but it's noticeably less smooth than what the Model S is. And lastly, when you buy a Model S, you get unlimited supercharging for life. So that means that on every road trip or every time you decide to go to a supercharger in the Model S, it's going to be 100% free. With the Model Y, you pay per use with superchargers, and it's usually cheaper than gas, but it isn't free. So hopefully with a car as expensive as the Model S, there's going to be some clear reasons as to why it is better than other models. But the main reasons are going to be range, performance, and the air suspension. But there are still some ways that the Model Y stands out above the Model S. While the Model Y only has one screen, the horizontal orientation and the location being out away from the dash actually makes it much easier to see and access controls. For example, when I'm driving and I want to change the temperature, I have to look and reach all the way down to here to change the temperature. And since this screen is so big, it just ends up that the main controls that are all down here are a little bit low. And you can kind of grip your hand right here and use your thumb like this to help if it's a bumpy road or anything, but I think it's a little bit too low. In the Model Y, if I want to access my temperature controls, it's overall quite a bit higher and allows my eyes to come off the road for less time, and I can kind of see it in my peripherals right here. Furthermore, on the screen, the autopilot visualizations are much larger and easier to see on the Model Y. In my experience driving the Model S, the visualizations seem to be kind of a bonus to look at for fun, whereas with the increased size on the Model Y, they actually enhanced my safety and general awareness of the cars around me because it's very easy to see. Now the Model Y features this beautiful panoramic glass roof, and as a matter of fact, the Model S used to have a roof exactly like this, but it doesn't anymore, and for the average consumer, that's going to be a downside because this panoramic glass roof on the Model Y is absolutely beautiful, especially on a long scenic road trip. While you will still have a glass roof in the Model S, you're going to have a beam in front of your head that's going to be blocking a little bit of the view, which is that difference between just a glass roof and a panoramic glass roof. The overall length and width of the Model Y are actually smaller than what the Model S is, so it makes it a little bit easier to pull into tight spots or get into garages and such, and for this reason I actually find it a little easier to drive. It's smaller, but not in a bad way. On top of this, as I mentioned earlier, with the added height of the Model Y, you're going to have quite a bit more cargo space. So if cargo space is very important to you, this is the car to go for. The Model Y is a taller car, higher off the ground, with seats on risers, so it's much easier to get into than the Model S. And for the average person, that's definitely a plus. Now, since the Model S is overall just a shallower car and it's lower to the ground, it can actually be pretty difficult to get in and out of. Now, I've gotten used to it over the past week, but the Model Y is much easier to enter and exit. The legroom in the Model Y is actually better thanks to this screen being higher up. My right knee has all of this space to deal with. Compared to the Model S, where my knee actually kind of hits where the screen ends and ends up kind of annoyingly resting there the whole time I'm driving. And then one new feature Tesla added in the Model Y that's actually the first Tesla to have this is a heat pump, which is much more efficient when heating the car. And in people's testing, it seems that it loses quite a bit less range when you're in a cold climate and you have to heat up the car. So that's definitely a plus for now, but I'm assuming they're going to be adding that heat pump to their other cars as well. And then lastly, the Model S just feels a little bit outdated and like it's time for Tesla to refresh it. I mean, call me crazy, but it kind of feels like a car that felt way ahead of its time in 2012, and now it's 2020. There's definitely been rumors that Tesla will be refreshing the Model S soon, and I'm excited to see that. Will they be bringing the horizontal display, the all panoramic glass roof? Who knows? But for now, which car would you choose? Are the premium features, better range, and better performance worth the extra cost on a car that I consider to be a little bit outdated? Or does the lower cost, simplistic interior, glass roof, and cargo space make the Model Y a reason to skip the Model S? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't get me wrong, the Model S is an awesome car and I've really enjoyed driving it this past week. I just personally prefer the Model Y, but maybe that's because I'm biased because I actually have a Model Y. In the meantime, make sure to like this video if you appreciated it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for lots more updates about Tesla and tech in general. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, because I'm going to talk about the width, like this. Here, I'll do the cool YouTube thing where you say like, all right, let's get into it. Can you see?
You're out of focus because the autofocus sucks.
Drive the Model Y because it's not as high, it's not as low. Third row of seats are going to be rear feet. I'm sitting a little bit further down in that understorage compartment. Still not going to work, and I got to get out of here. Done.